I am in DLC 707. I am the chair of your Women's Empowerment Committee at Local 1000, and I am very, very happy to welcome you to our new and improved, hopefully, statewide quarterly conference call. It's fun and a pleasure to be back doing what we do. As everyone knows, for a while we were all on hiatus for a little bit, but now we're back, and your Women's Committee is looking forward to bringing you more of the type of events that you've come to expect from us. Today on our quarterly conference call in March, which is Women's History Month, we decided to not look back, but to look forward and look at ways to build generational wealth and female business building and female wealth creation and female entrepreneurship. Basically, how to build a business, how to turn your side hustle into profit. And with us today, we have a I call her one of the most overeducated females that I know. And her name is Toyia Jackson. She has started and sold and just many different companies. I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about that. Currently, she is the founder of Iconic Choice Advisors. She has over 12 years experience helping businesses go from one level to the next, as well as helping people who come to her with nothing but an idea and not really sure how to turn that idea into their vision. And that's what she does, is she gives them the building blocks to help turn their dream into a vision and turn it into dollars in the bank. So if Toyia would be able, I'd like her to share a little bit about herself. Our moderator for tonight's call is Women's Committee member Cecilia Dagger. She's with DTSC in DLC, is it 725, I think? 725, okay. Wow, memory. So, little housekeeping here, everyone. If you could please make sure that if you are able to speak, that if your phones are muted, and that we can eliminate crosstalk. If you have any questions as the call is going, please put them in the chat. We do have someone moderating the chat. We'll get to as many of them as we can. And so without further ado, Toyia and Cecilia.
Thank you so
everybody.
Much for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure to have you, somebody with so many talents, and that we get to pick your brain for a few minutes. I really appreciate your time. Now, looking through the modules that you provided, I wanted to start off with, when we think about entrepreneurship, what is the mindset that we need to have? And why is it so important to think about the people that we have around us?
It is extremely important to think about everything from a micro and a macro view. I just released a book, and I just want to share an affirmation with you all as we get started. So, one of my affirmations that I always say to myself, and it ties into business and mental health. So I title it Why. So the why is, I will not forget my why. However, it is emotionally, mentally, and sometimes financially healthy for my why to evolve. And basically, as you all know, anybody that has achieved success in business had to have a certain amount of mental toughness, right? So there are certain things that one needs to consider as they embark upon this journey. And then they also need to have a game plan for how they're going to protect not just their financial wellness, but their mental health. Because running a business is stressful. Transitioning from a 9-to-5 and running a business is even more stressful. So mindset is absolutely everything. If I gave everybody on this call $1 million right now, but we didn't have a game plan for it, and we didn't have a way to scale that and to prepare for some of the new challenges that comes with spending $1 million appropriately, I really would be setting you all up to fail if you guys didn't have support in that area. So, when it comes to running a business, you really want to look at the support that you have within your circle. If you don't have those type of resources, just for the emotional support, that is even, in my opinion, sometimes bigger than your idea for business.
Thank you. That's really great. And can you tell us what kind of homework is needed and what kind of research is needed when you're thinking about starting your own business?
Well, the first question I ask all my clients is, do you have a product or a service? Because there's two different lanes there. If you have a product, there's different insurances and different types of intellectual property. If you have a service, then there's different taxes and things like that. So the first question you want to ask yourself is, do you have a product or a service? Then when you look at if you have a product or a service, you want to start diving a little bit deeper in some of those questions, such as, I'll pull from the module just to let you ladies know. So when you guys open up the actual portal, you won't be lost. I want to match it. You want to talk about the type of industry. So let's say I like to use the example of either hair care or real estate, right? So if you're in real estate, it's a service industry most of the time, right? Because you're servicing the client, you're representing sales, or you're an investor buying something. And once you know product or service, then industry, then you're guided to the requirements for that particular industry. For example, if anybody on here tonight has aspirations of eventually getting a real estate license, then you could start to put together keywords such as when you're doing your search, right? Because everybody is looking to be on the cross streets of Google and it, right? That's the cross streets we are looking for. So you can literally Google how to be a real estate agent in the state of California, and then you'll start seeing like the requirements at the state, local, federal level. And from there, you'll see who regulates that industry. You know, some people are into the food business, right? So if you're putting food in stores, that's different than being a street vendor or being a caterer. So you want to start with, like I said, product or service. Who regulates that industry? Do you need a license? Do you need a permit? Or do you need continuing education? Or do you need formal education? In the state of California, I've been in real estate since 2006. The requirements have changed. You need to have, I believe, 3 or 4 courses now, right? To get your sales license. If you're looking to get a broker license to be responsible for other people, that's a whole nother level of requirements. And from there, you can also understand, does that license translate into other states? If you're in the food industry, you already know it is strictly from the city, the state, and state by state. So again, you want to look at product, service, right? What is the industry? Do you need a permit? What type of insurance do you need? Do you need to get some more education? Also, a lot of people don't know that some of the industries where there's no cap on your dollars, on your earning potential, really takes about 3 to 6 months of education. So you got to look at all those things.
Thank you. That's so helpful. And when you're talking to new entrepreneurs, what are some of the major pitfalls that you see they encounter that you recommend we avoid?
Not asking the right questions because they don't know what questions to ask. Trying to cut corners and not consulting with the following people. Even if you don't hire a consultant, which I'm a consultant, so I would love for y'all to hire a consultant. But if you never hire a consultant, these are the people you need to talk to. A CPA that really knows taxes that are industry specific, right? Because, for example, I just acquired a construction company. Not every CPA can service us because we have to do what's called job tracking. And a lot of CPAs don't understand how to job track according to our particular niche market. We deal with a lot of remodels and luxury flips and Airbnbs and things like that. That's kind of like specific to one particular genre. So not talking to a CPA, not hiring an attorney, not looking at who regulates your industry. Those things are the biggest pitfalls, and I'll tell you why. Let's say we all, again, you're back at the $1 million I gave you, and you just ran off and you got a business card, you kept your DBA, or maybe you don't even know what a DBA is. I like to start, giving everything that you guys need to understand, even if we need to couple steps back. A DBA is really not offering any type of protection, right? Because it's just it's like it's like an alter ego, but it doesn't offer any type of protection liability wise, right? So you just ran off, you had a business card and a website, and you just went off to the races. And you said, Toya, I'm gonna start a food business. And then somebody eats your food and they get sick. And by the way, you and your husband or your family just purchased the property. Now they're suing you and they're putting a lien up against your property because you didn't properly protect yourself, right? So you really need to talk to a CPA and an attorney and package those things up correctly. Let's say none of those things happen and you get really big and you're blowing up everywhere and you have this name. Let's use my name, right? Because I think my name's kind of cool. Toya Jackson, right? You have this name, but you didn't get what's called intellectual property. You didn't trademark your name. You didn't copyright your name. And all of a sudden, somebody is in another city using your name and they are not given the level of care that you do to your clients. So you really, really, really have to not cut corners and budget. And nowadays with technology, there's so many ways to budget for these things that weren't accessible to us before. One of my favorite attorney friends that does a lot of trademarks for my clients, it's like $1,500. And in fact, I know you all on this call probably heard of LegalZoom. I actually know the guys that sold the packages to LegalZoom to where they're doing the contracts and the trademarks and things like that. But please, before you get too big, because I like to assume that everybody that starts a business, I like to act like we're all going to make a few $1 million. So don't treat it like it's something that may or may not hit. You know why? Because if you go 6 months from now and you hit, you're going to wish you did the other steps that I'm telling you about, because you'll lose money not building it correctly.
That is such a great point, because often we think, especially in these times, that we can just Google anything or YouTube anything. And to a certain point, you can do your own due diligence. But when you're hiring a consultant such as yourself, who has spent years in schooling, which is an investment, or an attorney that's appropriate for your type of business, you're buying time for the education that they've spent years getting. And so that's why it's such an important investment to consider, even if it sounds like a lot of money, because you need to invest that capital wisely when you're starting up. Otherwise, you're not doing yourself a service. That's such a great point. Thank you. I have a question here in the chat saying, what are some alternatives if funds are not available for attorneys or CPAs? And I know some of your modules explain, such as grants or other funding you can find, or investors.
Mm-hmm. So, I look at it like this. If you really dig into your startup costs, and maybe you want to time out the amount of time that it takes for you to start your business, maybe the first phase for you is just the research stage. Maybe you need 90 days to save to get an attorney or find, I believe, I'll provide these research to you ladies after the call, but there are some companies, it might be answers.com, to where you can get attorneys on payment plans. I don't know if a lot of you all on the call know about that. You can get attorneys on payment plans now as low as $200 to $250. And with CPAs, most CPAs will do a free intake call just to earn your business. So if you tell your CPA, hey, what's the difference between me having an LLC or an S Corp or a C Corp, and I don't want to speak too underneath you guys or too above. I want to be right in the middle. So short synopsis about that. So a DBA is just like being taxed regular, right? A LLC is a limited liability company. And the difference is how you're taxed. Most CPAs, that's a part of their intake. So they would love to take your call and say, hey, I'm thinking about starting a hair care business. And so I'm currently working for EDD or whatever entity you're working for. I'm already getting a W-2, kind of want to look at some other type of tax benefits. What do you recommend? And they'll tell you, hey, I recommend, well, first they'll ask you, do you plan on taking partners? Do you plan on giving shares of your company? All these qualifying questions, right? And from there, they'll create what's called a tax strategy. They're not going to tell you how to do it, but they'll tell you what you should consider, right? Because the secret sauce is how they get paid. But they would take that call. And let me just tell you, in the state of California, if you file an LLC or any corp, unless you have like a genius CPA, the minimum per year, I believe last time I checked was like $800 a year. So you can hold off until you're ready. So if it's $800 a year just for the tax, right? Your CPA fees will run you $400 and up, depending on what they're filing, right? If they're filing your tax IDs and your corporation. And really, it's two things that I tell everybody, and some of my fellow consultants will hate me for this. Two things, right? Either you hire somebody to do what you need to do, or you pay their costs. So maybe you say, I have a budget for $3,000 to get this done, and you shop around and you say, hey, Toyia, I got $1,000 for you. You have a CPA that can carry this, and you just really start to budget these things appropriately. We all have our budgets. What are we coming up on a second quarter? So you can look at that with your startup cost as well.
Toyia, I got a
Yes.
question in here from Candy Bullard. I'm a new multimedia artist. I was discouraged from creating an LLC because of the cost and taxes that happen up front before you generate income. What are your thoughts? And she said, I think you just answered my question, but I want to get a little more specific for that.
I feel like it's all about your goals. Some people create entities just to build credit, but I want to be real with you all. Building credit when you're first starting out sometimes is about your personal name as well. So I would look at, are you already making money from what you're doing? And if you are, take that leap of faith. Put together that LLC, and if you get hit with that $800 tax bill, get a payment plan for it and budget out for that. And from there, scale your business. Don't ever start anything planning to fail. You have to have an abundance mindset, right? So if you really want to do this thing, don't let $800 scare you, because $800 is a big deal when it comes to your paycheck, for sure. But when it comes to the next phase of your life and growing and creating legacy, is it really that much of a big deal? And if you find out this is something that you don't want to do, that's cool. Stick within your means. You stick within your means of your personal budget, stick within your means of your business budget as well.
So is that, just real quick, when you said the $800, which is the taxes, and you generally when you start, you've got a quarter before you have to pay it, right? Isn't that true?
Yeah, you have a while before you have to pay it. You can come up with, with the FTB, you can do like payment plans, just like you can do with federal. FTB is Franchise Tax Board. I know a lot of you ladies are state employees, so you know all about FTB. They want their money. I work there. That's what I'm saying. Like, they want their money, okay? Like, make no doubts about it. But you can come up with some type of payment plan as well.
And I just wanted to remind everybody that you can put any questions in the chat or in the question and answer forum. So please shoot any questions while we have fabulous Toyia here with all her knowledge. We welcome any questions that you have.
Oh, I see a question about an abundance mindset.
Yes.
So I like, if there are any ladies in here or anybody in here, because I know we have some gentlemen, if you've ever been in a relationship, okay, and tap 2 times, raise your hand if you've been in a relationship. Did you go into the relationship expecting somebody to cheat on you or to treat you like trash? No. So don't do that with your business, right? Go into your business like your business is going to take care of your legacy, like your business is going to raise you up, is going to be that thing that really validates you. I feel like your business and your job should validate you. This is why leadership is so important. Leaders have a high calling. Why? Because we have to validate everybody that's around us. We have to build up the team morale. So an abundance mindset is going into anything knowing that whatever you touch, if you have to reinvent yourself, you can make it so that there's a learning experience, but it's you learn, you grow, or you win. There's no failure. There's no failure. The failure is quitting. But you learn, you grow, you win. That's an abundance mindset. So that's a wonderful question.
I love that, because that's part of your image too. And that's, people sense that when you present yourself, if they want to work with you or for you, right? That kind of draws them in as well. That's great.
We have this other question real quick. Sorry, Cecilia. There's one more question from Candy Bullard. I never opened a business account. What should I have in place before opening a business account? Okay,
that is a wonderful question. So it also depends on your bank. So there are some banks that are business bank friendly. There's a credit union I've had for a long time. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but they have done away with their business accounts because their staffing just couldn't hire it. But they have other perks, right? So there's a lot of credit unions that they cater to their clients in a certain type of business. There are certain banks that cater more to nonprofits. I don't know if you ladies are all interested in, ladies and gentlemen, sorry, are all interested in nonprofits. But there's certain banks that are specific to nonprofits. So this is what you want to have. When you go to open a business account, if you are strictly a sole proprietorship, you want to have at least a DBA, or at least the name that you're operating under. Okay. And if you're not separating really your business from your personal name, you can use a social. If you are, you want to get a tax ID. And I don't know if you know this, I'm gonna give you a jewel right now. You can get a tax ID for free. If you Google getting a tax ID, a lot of times they'll try to charge you for it. You can get it for free. You can get it for free. And even if you don't quite understand a couple of the questions that they have on there, you can always change it as long as you're turning in the appropriate forms. So you wanna have that for sole proprietorship. If you have filed the entity, you wanna have your articles of incorporation from the state that you have filed in, okay? And then you also wanna have that tax ID attached to that. Don't be on the check systems, of course. If you were recently on the check systems, or if you need to get off the check system, contact the check system and clear that up. Not really that hard. Even if you owe some money, there's some things you can do to work it out. And you want to turn in all those documents to the actual bank.
And these are done through the Secretary of State's page?
Yes. If you're in California, Secretary of State, I've done deals in probably 30 something states out here in the US, and I've done a couple overseas. But yeah, you can get them all from the state level.
Definitely. And there's several examples you can look up. If you want to look up an LLC, you'll see their paperwork on there. I've had to look them up for my job, so I'm a little familiar, but I did not know that it was that easily accessible. Thank you so much. Do we have any other questions here?
Not seeing, well, wait a minute. Tax ID is city, DBA is county. Get your DBA first, then tax ID. That's not a question, that's a statement. So go ahead, Cecilia.
Good to know.
ID, the tax ID, the EIN, you can get from irs.gov. If you ladies Google and gentlemen, if you Google irs.gov/EIN, you'll see exactly what Mrs. Harrington was talking about. Ms. Harrington.
Great, thank you. So one of the questions I had was marketing, because we have such a social media age and it's so accessible to have like Instagram, Facebook, things like that. What do you recommend on how much we handle ourselves and how much we maybe pay an expert for that?
I go back to the budget. I definitely go back to the budget, and I go back to what your knowledge is. I don't like to try to take on things that I don't know or don't have time for. I look at it as investing in myself, but at the very minimum, I spend time trying to understand what that looks like. I just recently got on TikTok. One thing that Tracy will tell you, I am naturally a goofball, so TikTok was right up my alley. But it becomes a challenge to keep up with all those things, right? I got to a point to where I get paid for being on social media, and it was an accident. I'm not even gonna lie to you, ladies. It was a straight up accident. I didn't even know. My office told me that I had got an email about sponsors and all these different platforms wanting to offer me money to post, and I just got like 4 watches in the mail from some company that wanted me to post. But I would really say start off doing it yourself and create what's called a marketing calendar, right? So the goal really is to at least have, they say that you're supposed to do like 2 posts per day, at least 4 days out of the week. So if your budget is a little bit tight, if you put it in the marketing calendar, it's not as stressful as trying to come up with content all the time. And I gotta be honest with you, everybody is not gifted at posting on social media. I mean, you gotta think about it. You're working all day, right? You're dealing with meetings, you're dealing with family, you're dealing with kids, you're dealing with COVID, you're dealing with politics. Like, some of you will never have that type of energy in you in the history of everdom. Matter of fact, Tracy doesn't like for me to talk about my age because she say, she thinks I'm a baby. But when I was growing up, it wasn't social media, it was slam books, right? So I still don't really like social media like that, but I understand the importance of it. And I'm getting to a point now to where I will put a budget in there because it's making me money. It's creating the cash flow. It's already taking care of a few bills that I never have to think about now. But I would say go back to your budget. If your budget to start is $3,000 and you're saving or whatever, put your budget for social media. And
That's
there
a
can
really
be
great point.
yeah. So I don't know if you ladies remember, there used to, and gentlemen, okay, I did that. There used to be a company called Ping FM that got bought out by, I think it's Hoot Suite or something. You can automate your social media. And instead of hiring an actual company, you can just put it on your calendar and have it automatically post on all these different avenues. But honestly, and don't get stressed. Don't feel like, oh my God, my business is not going to reach my market because I don't understand. Because listen, today is TikTok. Tomorrow is going to be Fraggle Rock. I don't know. It changes. It changes with Silicon Valley. I deal with a lot of venture capital stuff these days. So don't get
Exactly.
stressed out. Budget and plan for it and just do your thing.
Yeah, that's a great point. That budget is not just money, it's time. How much of your time can you give to it? And if not, is it better to offsource it and hire somebody or make a calendar to budget your time better? That's a really great point. We do have another question here. Oh, this is a tricky one that I've often thought to myself. What are your thoughts on going into business with family and or friends?
You're okay. So do you ladies have wine in 2 hours? Do you? I kid. Okay, so all right. So I'll answer it in reality right now. Um, there are qualifying questions that I ask anybody when I go into business with them. And Tracy and I have been in business and we've never had an argument to this day. One of the reasons, and I'll brag upon my friend and I'll brag upon my family members, is because we have a level of self accountability and transparency that I feel like is unmatched, right? And in my village in particular, I allow people to check me. But here's the thing, I check myself before other people can check me. So if you have people around you that really can't operate from that level, I disagree with being in business with anybody like that, stranger, friends, family, I don't care who it is. But if they have a high level of transparency and self accountability, I'm here for it. You know why? Because at the end of the day, you're still gonna be friends and family, right? And what better feeling to win with somebody that you know and you love, right? But those are your qualifying questions. And to be honest with you, you know that from these points I'm going to make right now. Doesn't matter how you know them. When you guys decide to do business, sign that contract.
Yes.
Sign the contract. I don't care who. Jesus could walk into the room. Buddha. I don't care who walking in that room right now. We sign the contract, right? Because that piece of paper is only as good as the people that are signing it, right? Sign the contract. Due diligence, patterns. Look at people's patterns, right? There are some people. If I told you guys right now, let's say we shut this computer off and all of us are stranded, who are you going to call? That first person that came in your mind, you can probably do business with them. I guarantee you, because they're going to be there no matter what, right? So that's how I would determine whether or not I was going to do business with friends and family.
That's a great way of looking at it. Thank you. Yeah, and a contract will not only protect yourself, it'll protect them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a great. Do we have any more questions in the chat? That's definitely some food for thought.
Cecilia, I didn't see any in the chat, but there were a few questions that were provided at registration. So let's see. There's one, that one we just answered. Oh, one of the questions was, what are the chances of building a successful business if you are over 50 when you start?
If you're over 50, I'm sorry, Tracy, if you're over 50 when you start?
Yes, if you're starting thinking about entrepreneurship later in life, after the kids are grown, whatever the case may be, what can you still be successful? Or yeah, I think that's what that means.
I love this question. You know, one of the things that was out on me in the press was that I bridged the gap between generations. I often think about Generation X, millennials, and baby boomers. And I will say this, your chances increase when you are able to reinvent yourself. Because there's things that I can get from the generations before me, I can't get from my generation. I can't. You know, if I'm so focused on social media and I have mentors that are still teaching me about a firm handshake and showing up and being respectful of people's time and not, you know, being sucked into screens, there's value there. Baby boomers are not to be thrown away. There is a art in every generation that applies to business. And believe it or not, McKinsey Group, one of the biggest consulting firms in the world, in Deloitte, they study these things and they charge Coca-Cola, all these people, millions of dollars to have these same principles embedded in these corporations. So I wouldn't necessarily feel like you have an expiration date. I would really look at it as to how you are reinventing yourself. You're taking your product or your service, applying your principles, but also being relevant to the times. Anybody can win. When it comes to business and entrepreneurship, it's not really lottery, it's execution and skill and commitment.
Awesome, thank you.
That makes this baby boomer feel good.
I'm about to say, for those of us that are silently baby boomers, okay, this is good to hear. I see someone just put something in the chat. Oh, okay, Candy's asking, Toyia, what was your career focus and what did that journey look like? Oh, I think this is, I'd love to hear you share your story.
Oh yeah. Okay. So first of all, when my mother was pregnant with me, she was 17 and she was homeless. I just met my father at 35. I'm 38. Fortunately for me, I had, you know, more of a fairy tale side as things got older, and my dad, who we'll call my dad, raised me. And growing up, there was only a couple of career choices that I wanted. I said I wanted to be in business, entertainment, or law enforcement. I actually was getting recruited from a couple different agencies when I was an undergrad. And so what ended up happening was my mother had a cancer scare, and I lived in Hawaii. I came back home like sophomore year, and I was doing a lot of things in real estate, and I started building money, started stacking, right? And so I would, because I was able to scale my business, a lot of people would call me and say, Toya, how did you do it? I'm talking about crazy calls, like people that I didn't know was paying attention to me when social media wasn't that big. And so, somebody was like, Toya, you get paid for this. I was like, I don't know if I mean, it's cool getting paid for it, but I feel like what makes us great, sometimes we can't reach it because it's not affordable. So, I give away this knowledge and gave away this knowledge a long time for years and years. And then I turned it into an actual consulting company, and which afforded me the opportunity to go back to the things I love and capturing things like women entrepreneurs and on the film aspect and things like that. So one of the greatest pieces of advice that I got was, Toya, it's all about different streams of income. You take your 9 to 5, or you take the one thing that's making the most money, and you fill it into the other things that you're good at or that you have access to.
That's great. We do have a comment in the chat that says, I just started a trucking company at 65. Took a year to get it up and running, pulled the first load March 1st. Congratulations. So it's definitely doable, especially with the right mindset, right? Why limit yourself? That's really great. I did have a question also about when you have your business plan, and I know a lot of us work for the state and we're thinking about doing this maybe later in life or maybe sooner. What would be your recommendation to know when maybe this is something I want to do full time now, to go all in to that passion field that you want to do and leave that safety of your job behind? What would be your advice for that, for when to tell the time is right?
Look at all of your responsibilities. And sometimes you'll look at all your responsibilities and you'll still feel fear. But fear happens right before that moment of greatness a lot of times. And I will say, look at your family dynamics, your responsibilities, and see when the time is to pull that trigger. But also look at how well you have built the concept. It is easier to step on faith when you have already worked on some of the foundational principles, right? I would never advise anybody just get up from this particular Zoom and go just, okay, cool. Toya said this, bam. No, like have a plan, right? First plan, but more importantly, have a strategy. So what's your strategy, right? So for me, like I said, I was giving away these courses for free, but I was still making money with real estate, and I had restaurants and stuff like that. So look at your strategy, look at your responsibilities, and then look at the moment where you do need to take a leap of faith, and don't look back. Don't look back. Be responsible, but take that moment of faith. Don't leap back. And so here's the other thing. When you transition, before you transition, consider your social capital, right? So if you are all working in this particular segment together for empowerment of women, there's a lot of social capital on this Zoom. You might have an idea and a full panel of board members right on this call. That gives you legs to stand on. Start looking at the resources already in your particular network in transition. Put a timeline on transitioning too, right? Because sometimes we have an idea and it can just be floating, or maybe we have a new Tootsie Pop, but we only sell it to our daughter's soccer club, right? And so like, hey, okay, in 90 days, I want to sell it beyond the soccer club. Like put timelines on things. And just once you have that foundation and you have that solid plan, then put a timeline on when you are going to step out and when you are going to transition. And to be honest with you, you're going to be scared. You're going to be scared. I deal with a lot of like high profile people. They're scared. They call me, they're scared. Super Bowl, I'm talking to people, they're scared. My Super Bowl client, scared, right? But have that plan, look at your social capital, look in the mirror, fall in love with yourself, and tell that person when you were 5, when you were dreaming with no restrictions, and go.
Love that. Yes, thank you. We have a great question here. What government programs are tasked in providing assistance to women business owners?
So you can get certified as a women business owner and a minority women business owner. You can also get certified for the regions that you're in. And SBA.gov has some of the links, but there's also MBE and a couple other acronyms that I will definitely provide to you ladies, and you can get certified in that area. Also, iPhoneWomen.org, I think, is a new great resource. Hello, Alice. There's a lot of things out there now. If you have something too that you want to get into stores, Target and Walmart have been running their own like incubator programs. Macy's, if you're into clothing, Macy's has a program. So we can, Tracy, if you remind me, I will try to compose a full list of resources for all you.
I love me some Target.
One last question. Target is too much for me.
Going for one thing, come out with 10, 20.
Right.
One last question here. Is there such a thing as, if we can't afford your services, do you have packages? That's one of the questions.
Yes,
and that's something
for sure. I try to make everything affordable. We set days for group coaching on different days, and I love what I do. This is something that when I stop, it's gonna live on. I'm setting that up because I'm actually in talks about a merger right now, but I want to make sure that this information is available. But here's the thing. I can give you all the courses, all the knowledge, that $1 million. The biggest thing that we offer is accountability and a system to plug into to get you encouraged. But yeah, we definitely have things that's affordable. And affordable really is a subjective term, because I could say it's $20 and you could say, I want to take $20 and go to Chick-fil-A. But we try to make it reasonable. So just, but I want you all to win. That's a part of the legacy that I'm going to leave on this earth for sure.
Love it. Thank you so much. I love that enthusiasm, that support. I already feel like you've just mentored us and got us into that abundance mindset so that we can start really having those ideas and dreaming big. Thank you so much for your time. I know Tracy wants to bring up some of the documents that you've provided us that I have looked thoroughly through, because they're so well informed and just lays everything out for us in building that foundation, as you said, because we can only build up with a strong foundation. Tracy, did you want to discuss anything from those documents?
Yes, I'm going to bring up the documents and share my screen. Toyia, if you would take a second and just explain what the workbook is. And I think this might be a good place to say that Iconic Advisors and Toyia has graciously provided some freebies to us for everyone that's on the call, all members on the call. We are going to have access to her online portal. So I'm going to bring up the documents, and if we don't mind taking the last couple of minutes, if you just explain what this workbook is, and then I'll just switch over the documents. Is that okay, Toyia?
That sounds fine.
Awesome. Let me get it up here. We all know Tracy is technology challenged. But here we go. Let me get back to my screen. Share my screen. Bingo. I think this is it. Bingo. Share. Ah, there we go. Ta-da.
There we go.
Look at me. Okay, so this is the workbook that was provided by Iconic Choice Advisors. Toyia, could you I'm going to try to get down to this page. Could you just tell us a little bit about this workbook?
For sure. So this workbook was put together in 4 modules. So the first one being mindset, where we talk about looking at who's in your corner. So another thing I wanted to not get off this call and talk about was there are going to be people when you decide to really take your business seriously, they may not believe in you, and that's okay. As long as you believe in yourself and you protect that mindset. So there's some exercises in there that really challenges you to look at who's in your corner, right? And to look at what are you going to do about the resources that you do and don't have. So there might be some resources in terms of access to therapy or access to grants and things like that you don't have, but are you willing to work to get those things, right? So module 2 talks about the research. It's going to give some prompts for you to really look at diving into your particular industry, looking at what type of insurance you need to have, because the research also helps you with your startup costs and understanding what it really takes to start your particular business. And module 3 is called Build It Right, where we talk about entities, right? So what type of entity do you need to build, right? And why you need to build it that way. It is really industry specific. If you don't plan on raising money through stock shares or things like that, you might not need an S or C corp. You might be totally fine with an LLC and just separating your personal and your business assets. Module 4 talks about brand consistency. This is so important. Brand consistency is not just your logo. It's not being just to identify the household names. It is about how you treat your people internally. It is about how you treat your employees, your partners, your customers. In the book that I put in the portal for you ladies, I have this thing for my staff to where, okay, they say the customer is always right, but what if the customer is being abusive to my staff? So we need to deal with that, right? That's a part of your brand. Your brand is internal and external. So module 4 talks about brand consistency. This workbook has some questions that prompt you to really think about what it is that you're building and make it true to you and what you stand for.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And yes, this workbook will be provided to all members on this call. Let me see. The workshop, Turn Your Passion into Profit. I think I've taken this workshop. This one is just basically, isn't this the workshop that's in the online portal as well, Toya?
Yes, that's the one that I gave you ladies the code to go in there and finish it for free. I'll also pretty shortly, Tracy, remind me, we're going to put the business finance workshop in there so everyone on the call can really understand the different types of financing. I'll give like a 2-minute spill right now if you want me to, Tracy.
Give me one more thing to talk about and we'll come back to that because we're coming up on 7. If you have time to stay a few minutes past 7, that way we've only asked for an hour of our members' time, but if you would like to talk about a little bit about the business financing, which we actually are planning to make its own call at a later date. And if people would be willing to stay on to talk with you, if that's okay, I'm okay with it if it works for everyone else. If not, I totally get it. I can stay on. And because like I said, we only asked for an hour of their time, but this is what I would like.
We can tell me what you want to talk about. We can definitely save that for another time. I didn't realize it was almost 7, so we can save that.
That's okay. Tell us what this is, Toya. I'm so excited about this. I can't wait.
I am so excited for this. 22 business affirmations for executives and entrepreneurs. So I wrote this, first of all, true story. The house I live in has been in the family for a while. And when I moved in, there was a book that was short form, like maybe, I don't know, like 20-something pages. And I was like, wow, this book has such an impact. And so I kept writing books that were that short. So I recently wrote this book, and it is totally about really putting your mindset together when it comes to leadership. I recommend it for people that are thinking about entrepreneurship. I recommend it to people that want to give it to their bosses, because there are things that address indirectly issues of human resources and things like getting distracted or feeling like as a leader you're stuck or you don't have the appropriate resources. Like one of the things, the competition will not distract me. I will look at shifting according to the highest level of value I can offer. So if you're looking in terms of getting discouraged, you can get discouraged just in a leadership position, a managerial position, right? Like let's say there's a project and you get stuck. Don't get stuck. Don't get stuck on where you failed. Focus on the value that you have to offer, and really focus also on the fact that you might not be the genius behind a great idea. You might need to support your team to create that idea. And just shifting your mindset from from a win-win and win-learn perspective really was my heart behind writing this book.
This book also is going to be provided to all members on this call as well. I have to say a big thank you to Toyia and her team, because they have really provided us a lot of tools to help us, at least take the first steps in, and, building our minds to that abundance mindset, giving us the support, such as the business affirmations, because we all know there's going to be some rocky times. And also what I can't pull up here was she has an online workshop, different portals, and we will be able to access those online portals, that online lessons for free for all of our members who are actually on this call. Just allow us at least 2 weeks to gather the information from IT and get all those emails, and then get the information to you. But this is all going to be offered to everyone. And of course, if her contact information is down here at the bottom on their website. So to answer Candy's question, if she wanted to contact Toyia and her company, that's how. So there is that. I see 3 things in the chat. Cecilia, I'm going to let you go ahead and address the 3 items in the chat and then close us out. But if anyone does want to stay on after the call, and Toyia, if you want to talk a few moments, maybe, 3 to 5 minutes about business financing, we'll continue the call after that. But this will be our official end of this part of the call. So I'm going to let Cecilia take it away.
Yes, Toyia. So we're just getting a lot of thanks for your time and the invaluable resources. Somebody said they have a lot of questions and now they're excited to go do some research. So thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. This has been such a stimulating conversation, and it's more information than I expected, because it's not just about the tools we need, but the tools we have within us. And I really appreciate that you touched upon that, and that you really encourage us to take these leaps and get started with these goals. So thank you so much for your time. And thank you everybody for joining us. And I want to remind you that we also have the WEC Facebook page, and that we will have another quarterly call in a few months, and you'll have some more information about that as it comes closer. Any last questions or comments from anybody?
Not from me. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you want to stay on for a few moments, you can. When you registered for this call, you had to provide your email address. I will say that if you provided a work email address, we will not be sending any information to work emails. So if you'd like to put your personal email in the chat now, we'll go ahead and capture that. Molly, if you could download the chat notes so that we can capture everyone's emails, that would be awesome. And other than that, thank you all so much for your time. Thank you, Miss Cecilia. You were amazing. And as always, Toyia, you always give more than ever asked for. And I can't say how much I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. We're blessed to be a blessing. And I just want to say that I hope that the biggest takeaway from this call is that, all things are possible. Execution is necessary, and go back to that place where you first start dreaming and kill it. I'm here. at your disposal. I'm here to be a vessel. So thank you.
I just want that to be my voicemail message. I just want to hear it all the time. Thank you so much.
I was thinking that too, Cecilia.
Right? I'm gonna put it on a
I gotta write
Post-it.
that down. Well, thank
Yes.
God
I'm
this is
here for it.
recorded. It was recorded, so we can play that back, because I was just sitting here thinking, man, when is the last time I dreamed that way? And maybe that's the problem.
Mhm.
Nice. So our call has officially ended. Molly, can we